Okay, and okay, awesome. So we're now on session 3 of our React training, right? And this session is going to be on React hooks. And yeah, let's just get into it. Cool. So today's agenda is we'll understand the render cycle of every component in React. You know, क्या exactly render होता है, render, what does re-render mean, and what exactly happens in which order everything gets executed. And then we will understand why we need, there are some hooks, useMemo, useCallback, useEffect, and there is a react.memo also. So these are some concepts that we will introduce. We will understand why they were required in the first place and how do they actually function. Okay? So at the end of the session, you should be able to create some standard components with very efficient rendering in React. Okay? For example, if you have a table or you have, you know, some element that has many repeating elements, okay, to make that rendering very efficient, today's session will be very helpful. So target for today is to, so we had the to-do list app from last time. Okay, we've just added 2 fields to it. One is the search field and one is the sort field. So we'll just implement these 2 features today. Okay. Okay. So let's get into the code, get into our console only. The first thing I want to let's understand, we have said that, so when does a component re-render? Do you all remember this? We had discussed this last time.
जो भी हमने उस पे conditions डाले थे वो change होती है.
Conditions मतलब क्या? Component को क्या conditions डालते हैं?
On which change मतलब
state
change.
State change, perfect. Yes. So whenever the state changes, whether it is from the use state hook or the use effect hook, in दोनों case में ही component re-render होता है. Okay. Now let's do something. Okay. I'll use the main element only. Okay. I have a console log. So this is the starting of the app, right? Console log, ending of the function body. And then I will put a console log here. Okay, this is little hacking inside render. Okay. So now, which order do you think these will execute in? Okay. Okay. Huh? क्या हो गया? Used for truthness. Question. ठीक है. We'll just keep it right now. It's going to give an error, but that error is dismissible. It's a TypeScript error, and we should be able to see the results. So what do you expect? ये console log starting. What is the order that these will be printed in? Will it be starting, ending, and inside render, or will it be inside render, then starting, then ending? What do you think? Any guess?
Starting first.
Okay, so starting first, then
Inside render and then end.
okay, then inside render, then end. You were saying something different. You said inside render will be first, and then starting ending. Cool. So let's just see what happens. Now, what you have to realize is, at the end of the day, what is this? This is a function, regular JavaScript function. It cannot behave in any different way. I know. So now in a function, execution happens line by line, right? So if execution is happening line by line, that means it will go to this line first, execute it. It will go all the way down. It will go to the console log. This line, it will execute it, and then only it will return, correct? And that's exactly what we will see also. So in the console, you should see starting, ending, inside render, starting, ending, inside render, starting, ending, inside render. But why does it render so many times? Why is it logging it so? So actually, this could be just because we were making the changes at the time. Okay, fine. So it's happening 2 times. There is some state change. I think maybe just React is initializing it. That is the thing, right? So okay. We are fetching the data and then we are setting it. इसके वजह से re-render होता है. ठीक है. Now I'll add a use effect. Do you all remember about the use effect? Yeah. याद है? Discuss किया था, right? So use effect, why is it used?
To fetch the API calls.
So sometimes they're used to fetch some data or to make any action based on some state change, based on the dependency array. Right now we'll just do this, okay? So if I don't pass anything in the dependency array, what happens? Does the use effect execute? Will it not execute?
Execute only once.
It will execute only once when the component mounts. Okay. Now, so we know starting, ending, inside render. Now, when do you think the use effect would print? Will it be between starting and ending? Will it be after ending? Will it be after render? Any guesses? You're right now, so you're just guessing. I know. No one is expected to know.
Component render.
So after inside render? Okay. Yeah, that's right. So what happens is we have starting, ending, inside render, then use effect. Okay. And as we expect, it will run only once. Okay. So this is good. Now, why does the use effect run after the return? Because in order, it is before it, right? So think about it as an asynchronous function. You know, if we run an asynchronous function here also, let's say const async function, test. Oh, what am I doing? Const test equal to async function, which will just console log test. And we'll immediately call it in the function body only. Okay. So, okay, wait. We'll have to maybe await it. Maybe. Okay, this is a fail. ये नहीं करना चाहिए. Okay, fine. It's not working exactly as, let's see. Set timeout. Okay. Yay. We recreated that behavior. Okay. So now you see starting, ending, inside render, then test, and then you have the use effect. Okay. So it behaves something like that. See, this set timeout has a 0, right? So it should actually get called immediately. But it is asynchronous in the JavaScript entire event loop. So in that case, the use effect is something like that. Okay. It runs after the inside render function. Okay. Now, if I add another use effect to this mix, console log before effect, right? Let's just see what happens. I think, yeah, what you will see is by default, it will execute the use effects in order. So if I declare something at the top, that use effect will still run after all this inside render, but it will run in order. Okay? So this is what we need to understand about use effect. We also need, we'll introduce that later. So this is what the render cycle is. Now, we can only re-render some element when we change the state variables, right? Now, one thing that I had missed last time was that inside your console, you can see there is a warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Okay. So whenever we have a place, I'll remove this for now. Get rid of the error. So in to-do list, we are mapping over these to-dos. So whenever we map over multiple elements, we have to pass it a key. Okay. Now let's say this key should be unique for each and every element. Okay. And it should not be an index. Index नहीं हो सकता हो. मतलब नहीं होना चाहिए. कर सकते हो index, but problem is when you delete and add elements and you have used the index as a key, then it creates problems. उससे problems create होते हैं. Okay. So let's say to do dot ID. ID is the unique thing that we have. So whenever you are passing a key, you have to make sure that it is going to be unique for every element. And if it is not going to be unique, you have to figure out how to do it. So there are some workarounds that you will assign a temporary ID or something like that to make sure that this works. Generally, you will have some unique ID. We're normally doing these kind of things only. So once we do this, that warning goes away. Now let's do one more thing. Okay. I'll make this key. All right. So now we've understood what is the render cycle in React, right? Now, when does a child component re-render? This is an interesting question, right? Child component, let's say now, right now, our to-do app is the parent, right? So we have all these console logs. Okay, fine. Now let's remove these console logs. And we'll add a console log to the add to do form. Console log test. Now add to do form is one component. Okay. Now let's say I change some state out here. It depends on this function add to do, which also depends on to do's. Okay. So let's say I toggle this show completed. Okay. मैंने अगर show completed change कर दिया, तो add to do, does it have any dependency on that? नहीं, है ना? To do filter has it, but add to do doesn't have any dependency on this thing. So should it re-render or not? Any idea? हाँ, but कितना inefficient होगा ना अगर parent हो रहा है and every time every child is also re-rendering. मतलब we are comparing each and every child also. So imagine if something changes at the top level, we will have to compare every node again to check whether something has changed. And that's very inefficient, right? So let's look at it. I mean, let's see what actually happens. So let's clear this. Now I'll refresh. So obviously test. Now it printed once. Right now it's printing twice because we're fetching the list and we're updating it. Now, if I click on show completed, yes, it prints again. If I show completed, prints again. But show completed has no impact on this form, right? So why is this happening? Let's actually try to identify. Now, what did we say? When does a component re-render? It re-renders when either the props, which are passed from the parent change, or the state variable changes, right? तो इसको check कैसे करेंगे कि कौन सा वाला change हो रहा है? How can we check which one is changing? till now we know only of two things, use state and use effect. Can we use one of these to check कौन सा वाला change हो रहा है? Use state how?
अभी कौन सी state है वो check कर सकते हैं मतलब
नहीं, use state खुद तो ऐसे यूज होता है ना, it will just return us two variables. पर फिर हम चेक कैसे करेंगे कि add to do input का वैल्यू क्या है, मतलब उसका console लॉग कर सकते हैं उसको, right? Which would be a good way, but so इसमें पता नहीं चलेगा, add to do तो इतना clarity नहीं आएगा इसमें. Let's put it that way. So let's do it with a use effect. ठीक है? Use effect takes a dependency array. Dependency array में से कुछ भी change हुआ तो वो re-render होता है. So let's say add to do in the dependency array and console log add to do changing, and इसमें add to do actually दिखा भी देता है कि क्या है exactly add. It's a function, right? And let's do the same for our variable add to do input. Cool. Now let's clear this. Show completed. See, add to do is changing. लेकिन change होता है क्या? Add to do. Let's look at the code, right? To do app में add to do equal to title. It is a function, right? And it returns set to dos where we are spreading the to dos and एक और add कर रहे हैं जिसका मतलब title तो argument में आता है और id is to dos dot length plus 1. तो अगर to dos change होता है तो add to do change हो सकता है. To do is a state variable है ना, तो to dos पे उसका dependency है. So if to dos change, add to do will change. But when we are clicking on completed, to dos is not changing, right? So why is add to do changing? Any idea? Add to do तो एक बार compute होके आ जाना चाहिए ना. It should not keep changing every time. There's nothing that has changed.
चेंज होती है ना जब शो पे क्लिक करते हैं.
वो तो displayed to do चेंज हो गया है ना. Displayed to do को हम filter कर रहे हैं, right? If show completed, but show completed has no effect out here, right?
बट हमने अगर टू डूज का वेरिएबल चेंज किया
तो definitely होना चाहिए. If I mark something completed, it should happen. I agree. है ना? Let's take another example. है ना? Let's add a button here, okay? And we'll add a count. And right now I'll just add a count variable. Use 0, ठीक है? And then const increment set count to count plus 1, है ना? अब मैं count को change करूंगा, वो तो कहीं पे भी इफेक्ट नहीं कर रहा है, to do's को भी इफेक्ट नहीं, कहीं पे भी नहीं, right? So when I click on this button, sorry, I have to put an on click event. Now, still it is re-rendering, right? If I change this, yes, it should change. But अभी तो वो नहीं change हो रहा है, तो भी it is happening. So why is that? Let's understand. Remember we discussed something as pass by reference and pass by value last time. है ना? We said that all objects are passed by reference. And all primitive values are passed by value. तो अब क्या होता है, when this function renders, okay, when we are toggling this show completed, the entire component is rendering, तो line by line जाएगा, right? Now it comes to this line. जब ये line आता है तब वो क्या करता है JavaScript? It says एक नया function बनाना है add to do, right? जिसका content same रहेगा, the content of the function is the same, but it will store it in a new memory location. Correct? It will store it in an entirely new memory location. And now remember we had talked last time, okay, if I have to compare so many elements, the entire virtual DOM, if I have to compare, I will not compare the every key inside an object. I will only compare the address. Is it the same? Is it different? Right? So in this case, it will say, oh, the address is different. And that is why that component is re-rendering. Now, how can we prevent that? This is where the useCallback hook comes in. Okay. So any function that is when to ensure that any function passed to a child component remains stable, we use useCallback. मतलब in the same address. अगर dependency change नहीं हुआ है उसका, it should not recompute to a new address. It should return the same address. That is our goal. Okay. So we use this hook, useCallback, imported from React. Okay. So useCallback, the first argument is वो actual function जो हमको pass करना है to the child component. Second is a dependency array, just like we have in useEffect also. Now dependency array says, when do we want this to change? You know, when do we want this add to do function to get updated? So that will be when to do's gets updated, right? Whenever to do's gets updated, we want it to update itself, right? So now when we do this, let's check clear this. Now add to do. Oh, sorry, we're clicking on add to do. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. We'll clear this and let's click on this. So we're saying it's not printing. The add to do is not changing, but the component is still re-rendering. Right? Test is still printing. Agreed that the add to do itself, its address is not changing, but the component is still re-rendering. Okay. So now we need to fix this problem. Right? And this is actually a simple problem to fix. So isme React gives us this a method called memo. Okay. So it will only re-render a child if the props have changed. Props of that child have changed. So let's just do this. Yeah. Let's go add to do from component bola denge. And then I'll do export const add to do form equal to memo, small memo of add to do form component. Okay, so now we are just exporting a memoized version of that same component. Now let's check. Let's clear this and change. Ayo, component is not a function. What? I'll just refresh. Okay, yeah, it's working. And now let me change. Perfect. It's not re-rendering now. You know, we can remove these. We can just see once more. Yeah, test is printing, but if we change anything, it doesn't affect our re-render, right? Fantastic. So we have optimized our code now. Okay. So to optimize it, we did two things. One is the prop. We had to use a useCallback for this function so that its address did not change every time. And second, we had to wrap it inside a memo. Great. Now, next thing, we're going to do is let's look at this function. Yeah. Let's see. Let's wrap this inside a. How do we do? Okay. Okay, let's do this. Console log filtering. Okay, so whenever the show completed is true, this will run. Right. Let's do that. Clear this. Actually, remove that console log. Now we say show completed, so it's filtering, which is perfect. We want this to happen. Now let me click on count. What do you think? Will this filter again or not? Let's look at the code. Okay. Just think about it. When I change the button, click on the button, the state changes. What will happen? Will this line print or not? Console log filtering. Show completed is marked as true. Let us assume that every time. Gauravi, what do you think? Will it print this when I click on the button or not?
I think so. It will print.
Cool. Yeah. What do you think, Silene? Okay. Yep, exactly. So now, every time I do this, that means every time I'm changing anything, that entire filter function is working again. Right? This is very inefficient again. We don't want this entire list to filter every time. We know once we have filtered it, एक बार हो गया, फिर उसमें क्या change? There's no change in it, right? So this is why, so this is where now हमको same चीज करना है, ठीक है? We want to tell React कि ये displayed to dos है ना, it's not changing every time. You don't need to run this entire thing every time. You just need to run this when the to-dos change or show completed changes. Okay? So same thing we will do as useCallback, but just different hook. It's called useMemo. Okay? Now, first one is a function. Okay? This function cannot take any arguments. Okay? And the second argument is a dependency array. So what will we put inside dependency array? Yeah.
Show completed.
Show completed. Perfect. Done. Now, let's run this again. Clear this. Perfect. It's not, sorry, this would not run actually. Perfect. It's not running again, right? It just runs when we click on show completed, which is exactly the behavior that we want. Now, there is a difference between useCallback and useMemo. useCallback returns this entire function. So add to do becomes this function. Correct? But useMemo does not return the function. वो function को return नहीं करता. वो internally ये function को run करेगा और उसका जो return value है, whatever is the return value that this functioning is returning, that is what will get stored in displayed to dos. Right? So if I pass, yeah, basically this is just to make it more clear. Again, I can console log running filter, and then I will just return this. Okay. So you will notice this running filter. Okay. I mean, this function actually doesn't get stored in displayed to dos, right? The return value this whatever the array is returning, that is what gets stored in display to use. Right? That's why we are using it as a normal array and not as a function. Otherwise, we would have to call it. You know? Okay. So this you will. I hope this is pretty clear. Okay.
Count 10 से क्यों घटता है?
Oh, क्योंकि हम we are filtering, right? So to do's right now has 10 entries, and we are filtering. So when we are filtering, this function will run for each and every one, right? So that's why it's incremental. But that entire function is running only once. If you see running filter is only once. Running filter, this function only happens once, and then this happens. Cool. So this was about how we can basically make it very, very efficient. So there are some things that are remaining right now. So one is, if we see now to do filter also, we need to apply these changes to, right? So in case of to do filter and to do list. So let's go to do filter first. Now, show completed and set show completed. These are the two props that we are passing to it. So if these props change, the component should re-render. Now, when we change show completed, do we want to do filter to re-render? ये show completed है ना? तो वो तो of course उसको जरूरत ही है to change. Now set show completed is a function. When anything renders, अगर increment मतलब कुछ increment होता है, तो set show completed change होगा क्या? That is the question. Let's do it. Let's actually do it. ठीक है ना? वापस एक बार check कर लेते हैं. Use effect. Okay, let's run this. So if we change something, some count or something, actually हमने memoize भी नहीं किया है, हमने use callback भी use नहीं किया है, but it is not changing. Why is that? Why is this behaving differently? It's because it is given by use state hook. So use state hook क्या बोलता है कि हर बार you call me multiple times. Okay, even if you call the hook multiple times, it will return the same function only at the same address. It will not create a new function. Okay, it will always return the same function which is already at the same address. और वो internally manage कर लेता है use state. ठीक है? So we don't need to actually worry about this part. ठीक है? So whenever you are directly passing set show completed, right? You don't have to worry about it. Now let's do one thing. Let's put an arrow function, and it takes some Boolean value as argument. So we'll just put it like this. Correct. Now let's rerun this. Now it's changing again. Why is this happening? Let's remove that. Now every time we click, it's changing. पहले नहीं हो रहा था, लेकिन अभी हो रहा है. What is the difference? It's this arrow. So now every time when it comes, so JavaScript comes to this line, वो क्या देखता है यहाँ पे? एक नया function हमने wrapper function है, लेकिन नया function है. So every time it re-renders because of any state change, it will assign it to a new address. Perfect, right? And that is why this, even though it is the same function wrapped inside another function, it will re-render. ठीक है? तो इसके लिए it is ideal to use this. Now let me make it very clear. ये इतना बड़ा issue नहीं है. Okay. These are performance optimizations that you should make only when it is something very critical. जैसे कोई table है, उसमें बहुत सारे rows है, and I want to ensure that nothing changes, then you have to take care of all these things. But if there's some normal component, okay, like we have this form, we have this whatever, right, many things we have, you don't need to worry about it every time. कहीं कहीं पे arrow function use कर लिया, you did not wrap it inside a use callback, you did not wrap something in use memo, it's okay, ठीक है. But yes, if you have some very critical feature, ठीक है, then it is very necessary, and especially if there is some use effect involved. तो अगर if the child component में कोई use effect है which is listening to the जो देख रहा है कि ये change हुआ क्या, in that case it becomes very critical. So at that time you should be able to, so this entire session is just so that when that happens and you face some issue, you should be able to identify, अच्छा हाँ ये change हो रहा है इसके लिए, right? Let's do one more interesting thing, ठीक है? I'll say const test equal to an object, and I'll just give it a hello. Yeah, this will be one of the last things we do in this one, and I'll just pass this. To do filter mein, right now I just put it as any test. Okay. So now see this again and just try to guess. Will, if I click the button, increment button, will will test change for add to do form? Sorry, for this to do filter component. So will it print every time that it is changing? Why? हाँ, but फिर इधर मतलब क्या हो रहा, क्या होगा? Whenever it comes to this line, what will happen?
String है normal, तो location तो same ही रहता है. नहीं होना चाहिए.
Okay. What do you think, Gauravi?
हेलो.
Yeah.
सॉरी मेरा नेट ब्लैक हो गया था, मुझे क्वेश्चन नहीं समझा.
अच्छा, okay. So I have created this test object out here, ठीक है? And I'm passing it to this component as a prop. और यहाँ पे मैंने use effect में console log किया है that test is changing. Test is changing. अगर मैं, if I click on this button, increment button, will this component, will this use effect get triggered? This is what test is.
Yes.
Why?
क्योंकि हमने यहाँ पे वो पास किया इसकी वजह से, क्योंकि वो कंपोनेंट रेंडर करेगा टू डू फिल्टर का.
कंपोनेंट रेंडर करेगा, ठीक है, बट ये यूज इफेक्ट रन होगा क्या? This use effect only gets triggered when test changes, है ना? So will this use effect run if I have test like this?
टेस्ट चेंज नहीं हो रहा, एक्चुअली हेलो ही रहेगा हमेशा ना.
Correct.
तो वन टाइम ही आना चाहिए यूज इफेक्ट.
Cool. Let's check it out. It's happening multiple times, right? Why is this? Again, this is an object. It's not just a string, right? So whenever JavaScript comes across this, it will say, "Acha, this is a new object." It will get stored in a new address. If this was a string, that would be fine. Then it won't print. But as soon as it becomes an object or an array, even if it's an empty array, it will change every time. Okay? Just because the address is changing. Cool. So I think you guys are clear on this. So now let's just optimize these as per what we have done right now. So we don't need this test, obviously. We can move it. And we'll just add. So in order to optimize this one, I think all we need to do is we just need to wrap it inside a memo. This function can be wrapped inside memo. To do filter, let's go component variable. Perfect. And this is what happens to this. This is now optimized. We can refresh. And we don't have any test, but basically we can just console log something. Moving to do filter. Let's do this. Copy this and add to do form to ho gaya already. So I'll close that. To do list. Thank you. And then to do list item. इनको एक line से अभी we will just have to make sure that whenever we click on that button, none of these gets triggered. None of these console logs should get printed. And that should be our end goal. So right now, to-do list item. But yes, the filters has been successfully memoized and optimized. Let's go to-do list item first. Okay. So now to memo, first we'll just memoize it. Export const. And refresh. Does that work? Yes, that itself worked. Why did that work? Did we remove the console log? Sorry. पता चला नहीं हुआ होगा. अच्छा, it's re-rendering to do filter still. Wait. यही complete नहीं हुआ. Oh, that's just once. That's just once. It's only to-do list and to-do list item. Cool. Confusing. Okay. So to-do list item is still printing, है ना? और 10 बार हर एक re-render हो रहा है. तो what do you think? What can be the reasons? So whenever we are looking at why a component re-renders, we have to look at two things, three things. One is it memoized? Yes, it is memoized. Second, is the state changing? So state change, state है क्या इसमें? State ही नहीं है. So that's fine. Is other props changing? Are the props changing? Which of the props can change in this? So जब मैं button click कर रहा हूँ, when I'm clicking on that button, will completed status of this to-do list item. Let's just look at this. Okay, what is this to-do list item? ये है ना? जब मैं ये बटन क्लिक कर रहा हूं तो number 1 completed, whether it is true or false, is that changing? No. Title, is that changing? ID, is that changing? Mark to do completed, that could be the only one that might change. ऐसा लग रहा है. Okay, so let's again verify. You can verify very easily. useEffect, mark to do completed, console log, mark to do change, and yes, it is mark to do that is changing, right? So now let's go to do list. Uses to do list item, है ना? So an easy way to find out कि कहाँ पे ये component use हो रहा है is you can do a global search. उसके आगे एक angle bracket डाल दो and अच्छा sorry, to do list item. No, that's what's exported here. To do list item is used here and props dot mark to do completed. मतलब ये prop ही change हो रहा है. That is why it is happening. So to do list कहाँ पे use हो रहा है? Okay. To do list is only in to do app. So here we go, and mark to do completed is this function. Perfect. It's not inside a callback. उसके वजह से ये re-render हो रहा है. So let's wrap it. And what should be inside the dependency array? So let's just look at the function correctly. कि क्या exactly कर रहे हैं इस function में? So immediately this function is called. It calls the set to do's function. Set to do's is a state variable. तो इसको memorize करने की जरूरत नहीं है ना? ये तो already, तो इसको dependency में भी डालने की जरूरत नहीं है. To do's, that is a state variable that can change. Yes. तो to do's dot man to do. तो to do's का array अगर change हुआ तो ही to do change होगा, नहीं तो फिर नहीं होगा, right? बाकी कुछ dependency है. ID तो arguments आ रहा है. Completed भी arguments आ रहा है. तो वो तो state के साथ change नहीं होगा. वो तो जब call होगा function, that is when the ID and completed will be there, है ना? So to do's we can add, and I think that's it, right? So we will go into let's now get this, clear it, print. Perfect. To-do list item is not re-rendering anymore. Now the only one is to-do list, and let's look at it, right? Why is to-do list re-rendering? Let's go to the 3 things. First, is it memoized? No, right? And that's the first thing we'll do. And we'll just change this name also. Okay, perfect. It's memoized. Do we need to change anything else? To-dos. Is it changing? Let's go to the parent. Iska parent is to-do app. So let's look at to-dos mein displayed to-dos pass ho raha hai, which is wrapped inside useMemo. So will it change whenever we click on that button, that connect not connected button? Will it change?
No.
It will not change, right? So it's memoized. Mark to do completed, we all just right now wrapped it inside useCallback. So again, that will also not change when the rest of the state changes. So now, can you confidently say that this will not print again? Yes, file is yes. Gauravi?
Yes.
Cool. And I think should be good on that. Print. And none of these are re-rendering. The first time is the only time, and then we can change anything. And then obviously when we do this, yes, multiple things are changing. That's why it happens. Yeah. but otherwise nothing is getting rendered. Fantastic. We've optimized our code successfully. Okay. Oh, sorry. So now let's implement the functionality that we were going to implement, right? Let's go back to this. Okay. We want a search and we want a sort. Okay. So let's do this. Let's add it to the filters only. Okay, maybe we'll just create a new one. It's inside this. So right now, we create input. So just help me out here. So let's start with this search. So input may, first of all, it is an input. What all do we need to put here? Type equal to text, which is default. Then what should happen when I type inside the input?
Function called search.
Yeah, we need to search the list. है ना? Now let's think about कि मैं search करता हूँ तब exactly होता क्या है? So when I click on search, this list will change. Now tell me, do we need to change the मतलब so right now the original list has 10, right? Will we change that original list to now only have 3? Yeah. So let's try that. So to do app may this to do's and set to do's is there inside the to do app, right? We'll say const handle search equal to use callback. Okay. And what do we want? When we search, there will be an input, right? So there will be a search string. And we want to set the to-dos to the filtered ones, which match this search string. You know, where let's say where the title has these search. So set to-dos to to-dos dot. So which function will we use? Filter, map, which one?
Filter.
Correct, filter. And what should the condition be? So we want to filter the to-dos based on some condition. To-do.title. Perfect. Includes this search string. Perfect. And now in the dependency array, what do we want?
Search string change.
But search string is an argument. So that does not need to be in the dependency array. What needs to be in dependency?
To-dos.
To-dos. Yep. Yeah, because we are using the to-dos. Now let's come here. Array. We didn't save this. Type equal to text. And oh yeah, we need to accept this also. So handle search string. Here, this is for TypeScript. And we do on change equal to. Can we do handle search directly? So input, when it changes, what do we get as an argument in HTML? We get the final string only, or we get something else? No, we get the event, right? We get the event. So handle search, and we don't want to pass the entire event, right? We just want to pass e.target.value. So we have handle search, props.handle search. And we need to pass handle search to cool. Now let's search this. Let's see DLE. Very good. I got it. Now let me clear it. Clear भी नहीं हुआ. Why?
empty string.
नहीं पहले तो स्टार्टिंग में तो एम्प्टी स्ट्रिंग थी. Tell me if you want to see a particular part of the code. No. So
वो फंक्शन में इंक्लूड्स के यहाँ पे
नहीं includes तो है ही, मतलब like it's a so let's see ना. If I do f, ठीक है, ये दो तो filter हो रहे हैं, मतलब this is working, है ना. Till now also it's working, and now I type something random, of course it will get clear. But now when I going back, it's not working.
टू डूज अपडेट नहीं हो रहा है उसका.
To do update हो रहा है. Let's check out here, है ना. So handle search is getting called, console log inside handle search. Let's check. Here is test inside handle search. Here that. I changed to back to the हो रहा है, inside handle search. Okay, now let's think about it. Right? एक बार अभी मेरा suppose clear हो गया. Let's say I did not find any results. What will happen? todos.filter will have an empty array. Correct. Now, when todos.filter gives an empty array, है ना, तो set todos हो गया. So todos becomes an empty array. Now when I do backspace, when I clear the input, todos is still an empty array, right? So we have lost the original value. We've lost it. Is that making sense? है ना? The original value that was stored in todos only we are changing. So it's not a good idea to do it this way, right? So how could you do it? Right? Let's remove this. Let's go into this to-do list. Now, let's create a search variable. Yeah, sorry, Gauravi, tell me. Gauravi, you were saying something?
We can use ternary operator there, so no, in the previous functions.
Where?
Same for display show.
Acha, here one.
हाँ.
This one in handle search.
हाँ. अगर यहाँ पे अगर हमारा टू डू मतलब सर्च में अगर कुछ स्ट्रिंग है ही नहीं तो हम लोग ओरिजिनल एरे डिस्प्ले कर सकते हैं.
हाँ, बट वो ओरिजिनल एरे अभी स्टोर्ड कहाँ पे है?
इन टू डूज.
हाँ, बट वही तो चेंज किया हमने, right? This whatever response we got, we were setting it in to-dos, right? And then we changed the to-dos array only. So now this response, again we will, again though we won't fetch the API, right? Because it's the same thing. This is a local search. So we have set the to-dos only to this filtered value. So it doesn't really work in that sense. है ना? To-dos एक बार change हो गया. So then we can't get back what we have already cleared. There's no way. Right? So we won't use this approach.
Right.
What we will do is we'll use a state variable for the state of the search field. Now, let's say value equal to search. And here we just do set search. Don't need this anymore. Okay. Now the search variable will change every time the input changes. Okay. Now, based on this search variable, we want to show the filtered list, right, of to-do list. So whatever to-dos we are getting here, we want to filter that down again, right? So now, how will we do this? Use effect. Okay. Yeah.
Change of search.
Correct. On correct. On change of search. Now what do we want to do? But then we don't. So to-dos को इधर filter कर दूंगा. But is to-dos of state variable? It's there on the parent. But मेरे पास इसका setter यहाँ पे तो नहीं है. और अगर होता भी तो भी same problem आ जाता. कि मैंने filter कर दिया. Right? So one option is we can create a copy of to-dos. So let's say const this new variable, filtered to-dos, comma set filtered to-dos equal to use state of to-dos. And props. और फिर use effect में क्या करेंगे? We will search and then we will set filtered to-dos to to-dos dot filter prompts. Okay. So now अब इसके dependency array में वापस आएगा props dot to-dos, है ना? And set filtered to-dos is fine. So abhi now out here I will show instead of props dot to-dos I will map over filtered to-dos. Okay, anytime you get confused, maybe you can just come back to this video and go through it again. So let's try this out. This works great. Okay, so this is fine, no problem with it. There is still a better way of doing it. Okay, that better way is, see, the filtered to-dos that we need, right? Can that be, there was a question in thinking in React when we did that, right? There was a question when we are deciding if something is a state variable or not. Let's see, build a static version, minimal complete. That's coming. Is it, can you compute it based on any other state or props? If yes, it is not state. Now let's look at this carefully. Filtered to-dos, okay. Can I calculate it based on to-dos and the search string itself? Yes. Then it is not a prop. Is there anything else that I need that it requires its own state? Not really. No. So now let's change this. Equal to to-dos dot filter to-do dot title dot includes search. And now let's do this. Perfect. This works. What is the issue here, though? This will again get computed every time, right? So how do we fix that? No, use callback is for functions. No problem. Now we use useMemo. Uska return value will be array. And then we dependency array has props.todos and search. Whenever any one of these changes, this will turn two strings. It's perfect. So this is how we would manage searching. Right? Let's just add some placeholder search tools. Perfect. Now we want to add sorting. Okay. So we want to add a sort either A to Z or Z to A. Let's come back here. What can we use to have this drop down kind of structure? Which HTML element?
Option select.
Select option, correct, perfect, right? So we'll have a label and we'll call it sort. And Gauravi, did you miss something? Hi Gauravi, you're here?
Yes.
Okay. Did you miss something? Did you get the search part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're going into sort. So we're using a select component to handle our sort. So we'll have option. So first one will be A to Z. And another option will be Z to A. Let's just see if this has rendered correctly. Okay, good enough for now. Now, when we click on one of these, I want to trigger the sort. You know. Okay, so I think it's on change equal to E arrow. Let's just console log for now. Console log E dot target dot value. You know, what do you think this will console log E dot target dot value? When you select on change, what do you think is the value of A to Z and Z to A? Does it have a value? It doesn't have a value. How can we add that?
In option.
Correct. Perfect. So we'll add the value attribute. We'll call this 0. And we call this 1. Perfect. Now let's just check. B to A to Z, 0. Perfect. So we're getting that select working. Now what we have to do is we have to sort based on this value. Again, two ways of doing this. One, we can sort the main array. Will that cause a problem for us? No, actually it won't. We can actually do that. We can directly sort the top array only. But for now, we'll just do it in a different way, which is, I think, the better way also, right? So we'll use the same method, const sorted to-dos, to use memo, to-dos dot, right, sorry, props dot to-dos sort, to-do arrow, to-do dot title greater than, sorry, this is A comma B, right? We'll take the first one, the second one, A dot title greater than B dot title. But it cannot be only this, right? Question mark 1 is -1. But this cannot be the only dependency. But this is incorrect right now, because we need to sort it in the correct direction, based on what we have selected. So how do we do that? Correct. We need to pass the value, but we can't pass any arguments to useMemo. ये function तो है नहीं, we cannot call sort to do's out here. So we'll create a new state variable for it. Const sort direction comma set to the use state of 0 first initially. Now, if it is 0, it is A to Z. So 0, then return this. Sorry. Sort direction. If it is equal to 0, then if A dot title greater than B dot title, return 1, otherwise -1. And if it is not, if sort direction is 1, then we have to do the opposite. Just -1 and 1. And we should be. So we will also, we have not set the sort direction. We cancel out, change this to set sort direction. And here, so now let's here finally, okay. So finally, we want to display the sorted to-dos, right? Now let's, oh yeah. Oh, it's going as a string. Okay, let's convert these to strings. Convenience. Okay, let's sort Z to A to Z. Not changing. Why? Are they already sorted? D, E, F, I, yes, they are sorted. So why is it not changing? Look at this. This is where the problem is. No? When will this get computed again?
Props to this changing.
Props are to-dos changing. Correct. क्या change हो रहा है?
Order is
हाँ, order change हो रहा है, लेकिन
to-dos नहीं change हो रहे.
to-dos नहीं change हो रहे. Correct. So this is not getting triggered. How will we make sure that this gets triggered? Look at this function.
Sort direction अगर change होता है तो.
Correct. So what do we need to do?
Add करना पड़ेगा.
Yes, we have to add it to the dependency array. So order added this to the dependency array. Now let's check A to Z, Z to A. Working. Good stuff. But now another problem. Well, so now what do we do?
एक हमें स्टेट वेरिएबल के अंदर वो दोनों लिस्ट को असाइन करना पड़ेगा.
Okay, that's one way to do it. Second way is, अब तुम filter करोगे, उसी को sort कर दो. Right? So instead of here using props.todos, we'll just use filter to-dos. So no extra space wastage. We'll directly have this also, and we can sort it out. Making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And yes, if we look at this, let's just check if it is, yes, it should re-render the to-do list item because the to-dos are changing. It's re-rendering to-do filter, which is correct. All of these seem pretty valid. But no unnecessary re-renders are happening. That we are ensuring by doing, by clicking on this button. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll remove this button from here, or I'll keep it right now. This one, and I'll check this out, this code out to a new branch. So we can use that branch. Git check out session. Sorry. Okay. And Comment. So you guys can now access the same code and see what we have done. Okay, this is good. Any doubts from today's session? Let's do a run through of what all we did. Right? We run through the render cycle. We understood when does a child component re-render every time the parent state changes. So to avoid that, we discussed three things that we can do. One is we can use useCallback, right? When we are passing a function to a child, the useCallback makes sure that the address is the same. useMemo, when we are filtering something, when we are sorting something, when we are doing some kind of operation, right? At that time, to ensure that the address again remains the same and it doesn't change if any other state changes, we'll use useMemo. And memo. So we wrap all our components inside memo so that only when the props change, then only it re-renders. Otherwise, it doesn't re-render. Last, we also understood useEffect. The effect runs after the component has rendered. We saw that, right? Where we printed the console log statements and the useEffect console log ran last. One interesting thing that is pending actually from good we got to it is let's say I have a use effect. Okay. And I have a dependency on count. Okay. Console log count. Now, there is also a and there is an interesting functionality inside useEffect where it has a cleanup function. Okay, what does this mean? So a cleanup function runs when the component unmounts. Okay, typically when the component unmounts. So let's take a look at it this way. I've removed the dependency array. So when the component unmounts, that is not happening in this case. Unmount दिखाओ कैसे? 1 second, we will make a variable. Okay. We'll have to go to index.tsx. Right now, I'm just going to create a function in between. Actually, we need to add a button also. See. Oh no, we didn't place. Oh. Let's hide it. And here you see the cleanup function. I click again, show useEffect runs. but the cleanup function does not run. Now I make some changes, whatever. Doesn't matter. I hide it, the cleanup function will run. Okay. And now notice I changed the count, correct? Now there's this count getting printed out here. You know? But obviously the effect did not get triggered because I have not added count to the dependency array. And when I hide it, that time also the count is remaining at the old value only. Okay. Now let's do this, but when we have a count as dependency. So now it will run the effect, but let's see how it runs the cleanup function. Let's show this. I'll clear this. Now I'm changing this. So effect runs with number 1, but before that cleanup is running and with the number 0. Let's do it again. Cleanup with 1, effect with 2. Cleanup with 2, effect with 3. So what is happening is it is storing this function with whatever values it has at that time. Okay? And when it cleans up, it calls it with the old value. Okay. So it calls this function with the old value of the state and this function with the new value of the state. This old value happens before this is called. And let's check this order in the entire. So let's say begin. And there we go. Here. So count is changing. We have begin, end, then cleanup, then effect. Begin, end, then cleanup, then effect. Okay. Is this clear? Yeah. How this cleanup function works. What is the use of this cleanup function? That is the important question. So a lot of times useEffect में हम क्या करते हैं? We want to add some event listener. Let's say I want to add an event listener that if on this page, anytime if the mouse moves, okay, I need to, console print something, or I need to, when someone is dragging, right, something, I would need to listen to that event. You know? So if I do some window.add event listener, you know, out here, then if I unmount this component, that event listener will still remain. क्योंकि वो तो window पे डाल दिया ना हम लोग ने. So then we need to remove it also. So we remove it inside this cleanup. That is typically the use case. There might be other use cases also where it is used. For example, there is something called a Redux store. तो उसमें हमने बहुत सारा data डाल दिया. ठीक है. अब जब हम component unmount करते हैं, तो वो data clear नहीं होता, है ना? But actually we wanted to clear. So then even that can be done inside this function. To clear that.
करने का भी मतलब हमें लिखना ही पड़ता है.
नहीं, कभी-कभी लिखना पड़ता है. Yes, in case of Redux specifically, Redux is a particular library. We need to write that cleanup code. But in case of React query or some modern tools, right, you won't need to write that cleanup code. So this is, again, it will be used for, I'm just giving examples of where it can be used. And sometimes you're storing something, let's say in the worst case, just as an example, we should never do this ideally. We're storing something in the session storage, and we need to clear it once the user goes away, right? So in that case also, we can have this event listener or something like that, where we clear those things. Okay? Cool. All good for today's session. Any other questions you'll have? We covered the render cycle, useEffect, useCallback, useMemo, and memo. And then we just created this using all the principles that we have learned today. We added the search and we added the sort functionality. Okay. So if there are no questions, I mean, if you have questions, you can ask at any time. So what you can do is do something similar. Okay? You take the completed assignment from session 2, and then you can try to add the ability to sort the table columns and search the table. So searching the table is simple. You have an input field. But try to think about creative ways of how you can allow the user to search the column, entire column, sort the entire column. You know? Yeah, just try that out. See if you can figure how to do that. You can use references online and check what people have done. Okay. So yeah, that's for the assignment. And yeah, and then you also so whatever work you have done so far, right? You also can optimize that. So that again, use the same test. Create a small button on the parent component, have it maintain its own state, and then change that state and see if all the components are re-rendering or not. Ideally, you should not have any re-renders. You know, in the extremely ideal case. Okay, so do that as a exercise, so that that will give you a practice of using all these hooks and like a hands-on understanding of them. Okay. All right, I think we'll stop here.